Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hero Nation Show, the place where business owners and entrepreneurs just like you come to learn tools and tactics to live more epic lives. Welcome to the Hero Nation Show, guys. Whether you're listening to us on iTunes, whether you're listening to us on Facebook, watching us live, YouTube, wherever you're watching us, welcome. All right, guys, make sure that you leave comments down below as we're going through this thing. Hit us up with a like. Let us know how we're doing. Hey, we want to know what you have to think. So today's question was one that Wayne came up with, and that is,
why are you not telling your story?
Why are you not telling your story?
Why aren't you telling your story better? And I'm having this conversation all the time, right? We get to work with all these amazing people. The problem is so many of these people have their amazingness in this tiny little box, and you would never know how amazing they are, right? They're not telling their story well, in my perception, and they're playing. They're holding back. They're playing small, right? All this other stuff. So we sat down for a little while the other day and came up with what we think are probably the three main reasons people aren't telling their story. When I mean telling their story, they're not sharing with the world what they're great at. They're not sharing their knowledge. They're not sharing how they're helping people at a higher level, right? You wouldn't know they were amazing at what they're doing.
Right. So what's your first take on that?
So I think the first one's probably the easiest one. They just don't have the skills to tell their story, right? Like, what did you and I do 2 years ago? 2 years ago, you literally took me out, and for a day, right, we drove around. You go, here's how you tell your story. Here's how you tell a story. Here's how you start. Here's the middle. Like, you taught me how to tell stories better. Well, so I think the first reason they just suck at telling stories because they haven't learned.
Well, and to be fair, I think it took more than like one session.
It was pretty sure it was like 15 minutes, and I was a pro. I think that's what it was. It was like 5 minutes, 6 maybe. No, it took a lot. It was like a full. I mean, I'm still learning. It was a full-time journey. It's a full-time mentorship program, intensive. John tried to move in.
Move over, Wayne. Give me the kid's call.
Yeah.
So I do think there is some of that, right? But I think that also comes down to like being overwhelmed with the idea of what telling your story is, right? Because most of us. So you know what? The other day, so we were actually in here, and Chris Carr was in the studio with us, and he was looking at some of my artwork, right? And he was like, I can't even paint a stick figure,
right?
And I wish we gotten like a picture, or I think we actually have a picture. We're gonna put that up on the screen. And right before we did the podcast, I was like, dude, it's all about technique.
Right.
It's all about systems. It's all about learning how to do these systems and do this stuff. And so I showed him, I'd done this like painting of a mountain range, and I showed him really quickly. I was like, here's how you do this. And here's the technique. And all of a sudden, like, you could see the lights kind of going off in his head. Like, he's like, hang on, there's a system to this. There's like a step-by-step process of how to get this done. And so we all of a sudden had him sit down there, and he drew out his first little like multi-set mountain range in full color and paint. And he was on an iPad, and he's like,
well, I think that's the issue. And somebody actually emailed me this yesterday. They said, Wayne, were you just always good at speaking, or did you have to work at it? And in my mind, I'm like, dear God, right? I was like, I had to work at it, right? It was, 20-year overnight success. So I think that people look at storytelling and they go, I'm just not great at that, right? I just don't know how to tell my story well. And I mean, we spend several weeks every year in fuel, right? When people are going through the fuel program, and several weeks we spend on, here's how you tell a story. Here's several different ways you can tell your story, right? We go through there's a lot of science to telling great stories, and you got to lean in on the craft. And then I think the second thing on that, before we move to our two other points, is, you said something brilliant to me one time, which I know. No, you said something really brilliant, and you go, don't wait till you've arrived. People want to know. People want to be with you on the journey. So I think a lot of people are waiting until like, hey, once I'm amazing, or once I've mastered this area of my life, or whatever, then I'm going to share my story.
Yeah, credit to Gary.
Okay, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? But people want to go with you on the journey. So I think people go, what's my story? It's like, your story was this morning when your borrower can't get approved, and you did this, this, and this, and you got them approved. They're getting to the house, right? Yeah, that's part of your story.
Yeah. So and I also think people put too much weight on stories. One of the things is, so like, a good example of this is, so 5, maybe, it's been more than 5. I'd say like 6 years ago, right? When like we started like doing videos for just business owners, right? Like it was a thing. Like you would make one amazing
I love this.
video. It would be, you would spend, a lot of money on one incredible show-stop piece. I mean, you were talking, $60,000, $70,000 people would put into a show-stop,
right?
A show-stop video. And then,
which was 110 seconds.
No, it wasn't 110 seconds. No, it'd be like a 10-minute video.
Okay, yeah.
It would be like this one huge video. There'd be like 10 minutes of like explaining their stuff. Now things started changing, right? As we started moving through different phases in culture, and we started getting more Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, and videos became shorter and shorter. We went through TikTok and all this kind of stuff. And so all of a sudden, we started having this shift where people weren't interested in watching a 10, 20-minute video necessarily, unless you're watching this podcast. 30 minutes.
We're just going to cut it up into 100 30-second clips. Yeah.
Watch me now. Thank you. So there's like, so we started getting into this thing of like, no, I don't want a tentpole video.
Right.
I need smaller videos.
Yeah.
And like, you might still do like high level production, right? But we might take like a video and turn like, what used to be like a big tentpole video into like 6 smaller videos that people would watch. And then, but what needs to surround that, these like kind of tentpole, like really well crafted stuff, is all these things of like you telling your story. Now, here's what changed. It used to be anytime you put out a video, it was a really big deal. It was a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
It was a tentpole. You'd put a lot of money into it. You'd put a lot of marketing dollars into it, right? Like, I'm sorry, if you're going to spend $60,000, $70,000 on a video,
one video,
there better be $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 in the marketing budget to promote it. Now that's not the way this is. So it used to be that videos were steaks.
Right.
Now it's popcorn.
Right.
Now it's like I eat it, I chew it up, it's gone. How many videos? Wait, I'm gonna ask you this: how many videos do you think you watch on a daily basis?
A lot.
Give me an estimate on
probably. I mean, I don't know, 30, 40 videos. I mean, I probably don't watch them all, but I mean, I probably watch 5 to 10 seconds at least of 30 to 40 videos a day.
And how many, can you repeat back to me, what was in each one of those videos?
I probably would have a hard time remembering 3.
It's like trying to tell someone, like, can you please remember the taste of the popcorn?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's changed too. The other thing that's changed too is I think you've always had to tell your story, but it's way different now than it was years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So I had this conversation with one of our clients who's a dentist, right? Years ago, the way that a dentist would tell their story is they would take really professional pictures, take out big glossy ads, and run those ads over and over and over. And that was the story that they're really successful. They know what they're doing. Now, and a lot of my clients are struggling with this. Now people want to know what he does on the weekends. They want to know what he enjoys, like how he's doing with the grandkids. Like people want to know. So the whole, you've always had to tell your story, I think. Right. The context is wildly different, right? And agents, years ago, they would take out a glossy ad in a newspaper, and that was how they told the story. Now the game has completely changed. So you've got to get great at telling the story and being where people are.
Well, and see, here's where I was kind of going with what I was saying too, because it's totally true what you're saying, right? It's absolutely true. Here's the great news for everybody out there who's trying to do and tell their story. Because everything's like popcorn, congratulations, you have 1,000 chances to tell your story. And what happens is people freeze up because they're thinking about their tentpole story. They're thinking about like, you know what? Oh my God, it's so big, and I have to tell this exact story. Yeah. Here's the great news: you don't have to do that. Yes, at some point you need to have great tentpole videos.
Right.
You need to have professional stuff. But we're talking about like,
it's not the one and done anymore. It's not like, hey, one Super Bowl ad for $1 gazillion and that better work. It's
unless
1,000
you do
things.
something extremely stupid.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm going to define extremely stupid so not everyone's like, oh, if my hair is a little out of whack, then someone's going to like post me on. Unless you say something stupid like politically, business owners, you better just stop. Don't do it.
Just don't go there.
Okay? Just don't. Politically, racially, don't dare.
Even.
Why would you go there? Some ethical thing. You beat your dog and then you post it to Instagram. Dummy. Like, unless you do one of these things, you're not going to more than likely go negatively viral. Or maybe...
Well, you might go negatively viral. Yeah, there's some press that's bad press. Not all press is good press.
Yes.
Like we've learned that.
Okay,
yeah.
So or don't cuss the person out in the target, and then you'll end up, slammed on everything in the world.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, no one's probably going to wring you over the coals over you being like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing today.
And I think Gary Wine Library TV, Gary was like the architect of all that. He just started putting out consistent videos.
Yeah.
And here's the rest. If you're watching this and you don't feel like you're an expert at telling your story, you better start, because it's not going to get any easier. You better start right now. The good news is, if you haven't done any of these, nobody's going to care of the first 20 you do anyway, right? Because nobody's actually watching, right? So just start, and the consistency is going to get you. So this is where people go, how do I come up with enough content? Get on the fuel calls, and we'll teach you how to create content, right? But you got to get good at this. So I think that's reason number one.
Okay,
right?
and I'm gonna go one.
Put a bow
else.
on that.
Yeah. So the other thing that I'm gonna say on this is, guys, I'm gonna actually add a fourth reason too. Like, people go, no one's actually watching and no one actually cares. I hear this all the time too. I did 7 videos, and I don't feel like anyone's really watching. No, we never got over like 100 views on Facebook. Okay, it's so true. No one's watching at the moment. The great news is that if you are consistent, people come to consistency.
Right.
Right. The first videos that we put out, Hero Nation, they didn't really get that much traction. The second videos, the third videos, when we did, the reason why, one of the reasons why we were actually successful from the start was that Wayne did a ton of work on the front end. He was like, I was on the phone with him every day being like, have you filmed? Have you filmed? Have you filmed? Are you sending me stuff? And we were getting it out on this like crazy consistent basis. And guess what? It allowed us to have a crazy stream of content that lasted. I think the original push was 6-7 months.
Well, and I think
content.
that's one of the ways that we judge people nowadays, especially in the information age. One of the ways I judge people is I sit back and I watch them for several months to see if they're legit. Right? Someone puts out one great video or they do one great class. I don't care. Right? I'm judging them based on are they consistent? Can they do it in the long run?
Yeah.
So.
Do you have how much content do you have?
Yep.
And are you consistently putting it out? Because none of us, and this is the thing, right? None of us want to be the person that's like, yes, like I just found this amazing person and they were here and then they were gone in the next like everybody go watch my my cousin Ernie's amazing videos about tractors, and then the next and he posts one video and then he goes away.
He goes away. Yeah. All right, let's get to this point 2. We're ready? My high D kicks in. Okay, point number 2.
No.
Point number 2. All right, point number one is point number one. The high D gets in me. We got. Wow! All right, point number 1 is point number 1.
All right, so
point number 1 was you got to skill up. You got to get good at this.
All right, and then point number 2. Now we're finally getting to point number 2.
Point number 2 is this, and John, I'll let you expound on this. Point number 2 is once you've had a certain amount of success, you actually begin to realize how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes you feel like you're not maybe worthy, or I'm not the greatest person at real estate ever. I'm not the greatest coach that's ever walked the earth. Maybe I shouldn't share because I know there's other people out there that maybe have more brilliance than I do.
So, and this, guys, just on a personal note, this is something I struggle with all the time, right? I am good at what I do, right? As a cinematographer, we own a production company. I'm good at what I do. However, I know that there are a lot of other people who are really good at what they do. So it's sometimes it's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm totally the number one person that can help you out. And I even have problems with when someone tries to introduce me as like, hey, John's like the best in the world at this. Wayne does it to me all the time. He's like, John's the best in the world. I'm like, I hope no one who knows what they're actually talking about is watching, because I'm not, right? And sometimes that holds us back.
Yeah.
I mean that held me back for a long time.
Yeah.
Because I was sitting there and I was like, I'm not really sure. And
I think it's like you almost feel like you have like an intruder syndrome. Like people find out who I really am, right? So just be who you really are. At least that's my piece of advice. I think it's like we did a video about this the other day talking about how if you ever climbed a mountain and you're halfway up the mountain and the mountain looks like twice as big as it was when you first started, right? And you're like, I don't know how it's growing as I'm walking, right? But I think the key is sometimes you got to look back and go, you know what? Like there's a lot more to go, but look at what I have covered. Right. And there's a whole lot of people that somebody's waiting to hear your message. Somebody's where you were 3 years ago, and that's what they need to hear. They don't need to hear about the perfect person that's arrived as the greatest in the world. They need to go, hey, you know what? 6 months ago, I was struggling with this. I figured this and this out, and that's helping me. And right now, I'm trying to figure this out. So I think it's just about being authentic about where you are.
Yeah, and that's hard. That is really hard. But I think the best way to get around that imposter syndrome is honestly just to go out there. Stick your face out there and just talk, and don't do the highlight reel. That is the best way to get around the imposter syndrome. I like that. That's awesome. Everybody else is sitting there that that are like they're new to the industry or whatever. They're throwing their highlight reel up there all the time. I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world.
Dude, that's hard not to do.
I'm the best in the world.
Right. I struggle with that, right? I'm like, hey, this call was awesome. This call was awesome. This was amazing, right? Like, rarely do I get on social media. I'm like, hey, you know what? The last coaching call I think sucked. Like, I think I was like 75%. Like, I don't know what I'm right. Like, it's so easy for us.
That's the thing,
right? But I don't do that enough. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's easy for us to share the highlight reel. That's easier than like the real stuff sometimes.
And it is. And God, so I put out a video the other day. Like on kind of like myself like struggling with like weight and like how I was dealing with all this stuff. That was brutally hard to stick out. Not because like anyone's that I believe that anyone's looking at me and being like, oh yeah, he's not overweight. The issue is like I still had to like expose my internal workings, what was actually going on. And that's really that's difficult to do. That's hard to do. But oh God, it was
I think like that's what pulls people in. It rewards you, and I think it helps so many people. Nobody's inspired by perfection, right? Because if you go, hey, I did this one thing and I lost 600 pounds in 5 minutes, right? I'm like, shit, I'm never gonna do that, right? Like I'm never like that's so unattainable. It's not me.
Come with me on the journey,
right?
Baby.
If it's like, hey, I lost 50 pounds and then I gained 20 back, and then I did this. It's like, oh man, that's real. I can embrace that. That's something I can do. So I think it's just about being real on the journey, not pretending you've arrived. And I think you just nailed it on the head. Like, don't just share the highlight reel. I think it's huge.
Highlight reel sucks.
So let's get to the third one. I think this is a big one, and we've gone back and forth on this a lot. So this will be interesting. Brace yourself. The third reason I think people don't share their story, I think they're making it about them and they're missing the point. Here's what I mean by that. I think, and I work a lot with real estate agents, right? So 67% of our clients are realtors, and I see so many of them that don't tell their story. And when I get in there, what I realize is that they go, I don't want to look a certain way. I don't want people to think that I think I'm all that. I don't want people to think that I'm bragging. I don't want people, and it's all about them. It's all about them. It's all about them.
It's about a pride issue.
It's all about how they look, right? I don't want the PTA moms to think that I'm trying to get business, whatever it is, right? What they're missing is, I think the point of telling your story is, if you don't tell your story and help people know that you're amazing at what you do, they can end up working with someone else that isn't amazing and get screwed over. So like you with video, right? I think you really are one of the best at videography and everything else you do. It's incredible how you can tell a story and make it look awesome. And I mean, you make me look good. That should be on your postcard. I can make Wayne look good. You should hire me, right?
It's not that
right.
hard.
But if you're not telling your story and that you're great at this, there's a good chance someone could be on some other website. There's other videographer that's been out there for 8 minutes that got a $2 camera going, I'm the best in the world. And if you're not telling your story and he's telling his story better than you are, that the general person could get stuck with that person, not with you. So I don't think you need to brag and go like, I'm the greatest ever and there's no one's ever been better than me. But I think you need to go, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I love. Here's how I tell great stories. Here's my successes. Here's what I was able to help Wayne do. And I think you owe that to the general public and the people you care about, so they know that you're legit and they should work with you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So that
was a really long rant. I don't even know if I breathed. I get a little passionate about this.
It's good. It's good. So I'm gonna be the balance piece to this one. So I'm gonna say this: if you are constantly 100% posting stuff on the internet to be like I'm getting work, like You have nothing on if you're a real estate person, you have nothing on your personal Facebook page but houses and listings and how great you are, and you're showing off your highlight reel. You're not actually telling your story. Right. At that point, you're actually distancing yourself from people. You're actually having the opposite effect that you want, because guess what? I've seen this on, it's not just one person, I've seen this on multiple people. Right, they start having this deal of, they start posting on their Facebook page like all this business content and nothing else, and then what ends up happening is their influence actually dies because no one's actually engaging with your stuff.
Well, I think that goes back to like, do you care about who you're talking to?
Yeah.
Like, is there, like,
are you talking at them or with them?
Well, and I think that's where it's changed the last 5-10 years. It's not a one-way mirror anymore, right? If you want to do one-way mirror, go nail Twitter, right? But for everywhere else, it's not a one-way mirror. It's a conversation, and it's changed and evolved. And if you're just all about you, that's going to come across.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, do I actually care? Why am I actually doing this? Who am I trying to help? And helping enough other people get what they want. Yeah. So I think a lot of this comes down to, where's your heart in it?
Yeah, are you there to help people? And people know. So here's the way I put this all the time. And I have made people cry when I have gone in when I've almost like come.
I got a call like that like literally 4 days ago. Somebody's like, John did an audit on my social media, and I was bawling. That literally happened.
So here's the deal. I always say this. It's social media. Social is the first word. Yep. Media is the second word. If you are not there to be social, if you're not asking the question like this, how am I going to better this platform? Yeah. And how am I going to serve the people with the content that I am giving them? Then you are there for the wrong reasons, and everybody will know it, and they're going to go away. Yeah. So if that's a scary thing, right? Because then people are like, well, maybe I shouldn't tell my story. No, here's the deal. If you really can serve them well, don't promise the moon, the sun, and the stars if you only have a pond in your backyard, right? Yeah. Promise what you can actually give them, and give them the best that you have.
Yes. Well, and just because, and if you, that's why we developed the social media schedule that we have, right? So if you want the perfect real estate social media schedule, right, we'll put a link in here somewhere for that. Because just because your heart's in the right place, you still need a strategy, right? And the reason we came up with the real estate perfect social media calendar is because we realized that you still needed a strategy on how to execute that heart.
And it is a strategy.
It's both, right? Yeah. It's skill set, mindset, like it's all the above, right? Yeah. What do you need more of, a better skill set or a better mindset? You need both, right? Yeah. So I think it's
a good set of strategy. It's not the only strategy. It's not going to work for every person, but it's a good solid building block to get you out of the gate.
So give a couple pointers. If people are working to get their story, they want to tell their story better, what's 2 or 3 things you would do right off the bat?
The first thing I would tell you to do is calm down. Right? Because everybody gets into a panic, and they're always like, I have to tell my story. And they get really uptight, and we're like, okay, calm down, let go of the fear. You can't help people out of fear. Yeah. Sorry, you just end up trampling them. So the first thing I would do is tell you to calm down. The second thing I would tell you to do is look at your calendar and space in places to create content. And content's a big word. And it's used for a lot of stuff.
Well, get the social media calendar, and then find a couple times in your schedule when you're going to do some of the things we line out in there, and just make a plan. So instead of like beating yourself up because you've been trying to wing it and remember, what I hear you saying is like just make a schedule, make a plan for what you're going to do. And
the third thing I would tell you to do is with the schedule, with the planning, I would also say mass create content. Yeah. So do not try to set yourself up on a weekly schedule where you are, especially if you're a business owner, where you are basically responsible on a weekly basis of trying to get something out by 6 o'clock on a Tuesday, every Tuesday. That's a really hard thing to do with how much flexibility you have to have, everything else, unless you're in the media business. That's a very hard thing to do. Instead of doing that, I would create a mass amount of content at one time.
Yeah.
So like when we shoot these podcasts, guys, we
usually do several at a time.
We shoot quite a few of them at a time. We basically pick a week and we're like, cool, this is Hero Nation podcast.
16 podcasts go.
We're basically we cram it all in because sometimes I'm most of the time I'm not in Dallas.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere on the road.
Well, sometimes it's hard to get in that creative space, and you talk about that a lot. Like it's hard to go from like this space to a really creative space sometimes and back and forth. So I think there's a lot of sense. If you can sit down even for an hour, 2 hours, just write down, hey, here's some great content. Here's what I could talk about. Here's some. Yeah.
So mass create, and then my last tip. I'm going to give you a tip at the end. So it's not one of the 1, 2, 3s. It's just a tip.
Okay.
Don't edit while you create.
I love that. Yep.
So if you're gonna make something, make something. If you're gonna create something, create something. But if you're gonna edit, don't do it at the same time that you create because you're gonna lose your. You'll end up squashing your creativity because you have because you're trying to edit while you create.
Yeah.
So I think those are our lists.
I think my last two things are and somebody brilliant said, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Kevin Kaufman, I think, said it. If you want experience, you got to experiment. Right. So like you just got to lean in, right? You're not going to get there overnight. You just got to start. And I think the second thing that helped me a lot was watching some other people that I admire to inspire me a little bit. Right. Yeah. So don't copy and paste everything they're doing, but it's okay to get a handful of people that you look up to and admire to get some inspiration. That helped me.
Yeah. So. It's a process.
And join Fuel because we talk about this throughout the year on telling your story and getting good at it because there's a science to this and we realize how important it is.
Yeah. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us on the Hero Nation show. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Guys, if you have any questions, any comments, you want to join Fuel, you want to talk to us about something, you want to, we have like free strategy sessions and stuff like that. If you just want to call us and be like, hey, I need some help with this stuff. Yep. All that stuff will be in the links down below. Leave us a comment. Give us your questions. You can, give us a like. And whether you're listening to us on, YouTube or Facebook or you're listening to us on iTunes, rate us. Let us know how we're doing. We really do take all that, all that stuff really.
I've identified my love language as shares.
Shares.
Yeah, shares like, there's like physical touch and words of affirmations, all stuff. My new love language is likes and shares.
No, perfect.
Yeah.
So leave that stuff down there. It really means a lot to us and it helps us know that we're doing a good job. Let us know if let us know if there's another subject that you'd like us to cover, and of course we will. Yep. And until next time, guys, be your own hero.